But we can take every commandment in the Bible, and every one of them will fall under one of these two. Either has to do with our relationship with God, or it has to do with our relationship with others. Yeah. That's what Jesus was saying. Now, let me give you a principle. If you're taking notes, I want you to write this down. Every other commandment can be categorized under one of these two commandments. It either falls under loving God with all of your heart, soul, mind, and strength, or it falls under loving your neighbor as yourself. Now, let's use the 10 Commandments as an example. The first 5 of the 10 Commandments falls under loving God with all of your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Think about them. Here's the first 5. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make any idols. Thou shalt not take the Lord's name in vain. Thou shalt remember the Sabbath. And thou shalt honor those in authority. How many of you think I got the 5th one wrong? How many of you know what the 5th commandment is? You should honor your father and mother, right? But I didn't say that. What did I say? You should honor those in authority. Why did I say that? Because the Jews taught and believed that learning to honor and respect those in authority begins in the home. Teachers, listen to me. If parents do not teach their children to respect and honor them in home, do you really think they're going to honor and respect your authority in the classroom? That's what's wrong with school today. The problem is the home. Parents have not taught their children to honor and respect them. Therefore, they're not teaching them to honor and respect those in authority. So Jews taught that when Jesus said to honor your father and mother, he was actually teaching us to honor those in authority. Yeah. Now, here's what's interesting. Those first 5 commandments fall under loving God with all your heart, soul, and mind. Yeah. The first 3 are negative. Don't do this. Don't have other gods before me. Don't make any idols. Don't take the Lord's name in vain. The next 2 are positive. Do this, keep the Sabbath. Do this, honor those in authority. But I want you to understand, all 5 of those fall under your relationship with God. Yeah. The last 5 of the 10 Commandments falls under loving your neighbor as yourself. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not lie. Thou shalt not covet your neighbor's wife or property. Here's what's kind of interesting. When it comes to loving your neighbor, of the 10 Commandments, the last 5 that falls under loving your neighbor as yourself, they're all negative. Don't do this. But we can take every commandment in the Bible, and every one of them will fall under one of these two. Either has to do with our relationship with God, or it has to do with our relationship with others. Yeah. That's what Jesus was saying. Now, let me give you a principle. If you're taking notes, I want you to write this down. According to Jesus, the most important thing in life is relationships. The law you're asking. Of all the commandments in the Bible, what's the most important? He said the first one deals with your relationship with God. You need to love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. The second's likened to it. You need to love your neighbor as yourself. Basically, what Jesus is telling us is the most important thing in life is relationships. First, a relationship with God. As I said, loving Him with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. That's the most important thing in life. The second, which is likened to the first, is a relationship with people. Loving others as yourself. So loving others is the second most important thing in life. So, according to Jesus, the most important thing in life, the most important things in life are relationships. Trust me, nothing is more important than relationships. Relationships are more important than money. Relationships are more important than personal happiness. Relationships are more important than anything. And people, if you don't get that, bless your heart, you don't know what life is all about. Look at the last part of Luke chapter 12, verse number 15. Jesus was ministering to a crowd, and I'll give you kind of the context of this. A person in the crowd shouts out, kind of like reporters do to politicians. They want them to answer a question, and they're walking off, and so they'll scream out a question. So this guy yells out, "Jesus, tell my brother to share his inheritance with me." In other words, the parents' inheritance. We don't really know what happened, but Jesus says, wait a minute. I'm not here to do these little things. And then he says this, you'd think he'd get on to the brother, but in a sense he's getting on to both of them. He says that covetousness and greed, man, don't have any part of that. Whether it's the older brother or the younger brother who didn't get anything. But then he says this, and I love it. This is the last part of verse 15, Luke chapter 12. He says this, life is not measured by how much you own. Lord, if we could ever get that. In other words, Jesus is saying this, life is not measured by the material things that you possess. Most of the time, we don't see it that way. We measure our success by the house we live in, the car we drive, the clothes we wear, the vacations we take, those type of things. But the truth of the matter is, when you get down to the end of your life, you're going to realize all of that's dung. Life is not measured by the material things you possess. Steve Jobs has found that out. Warren Buffett will find that out. Bill Gates will find that out. That's not how life or the success of life is measured. No. But if life is not measured by the material things that you possess, if it's not measured by how much you own, what is it measured by? Well, I'm glad you asked. I'm going to give you your second principle that Jesus taught. Are you ready? Write this down. Life is measured by the quality of your relationships.